morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where it's a bit of a slow news day, so I was having trouble finding stories to fill today's episode. And so as a result, I was kind of dragging my feet, being like, maybe something will pop up. And the movie gods smiled upon me. Because sure enough, as I was like, man, I better start filming this episode, I saw Chewbacca start to trend on Twitter. And I was like, ooh, what's happening? Is there like a movie announcement about him in the young Han Solo film? But no, what's going on is that this woman, Candace Payne, who's a fan of Star Wars, a huge fan of Star Wars, as you'll see, posted a video on her Facebook page of her getting a Chewbacca mask at Kohl's. And she wanted to share it with her friends. And the video is just blown up because she's just so adorable in it. And the reason I want to share it with you, not only because it's a good, fun video and it shows a fan, but I have to say, it shows that women like this stuff. You know, like women are part of fandom. And not in like a, there's always that fake geek girl, thing that was around for a while where guys would accuse women of pretending to like genre stuff just to be part of the group or, to get in on the craze. But I really love this video because it's just so genuine. And she just so obviously loves Chewbacca and Star Wars and is so excited for this. And I have to say, to her credit, it is an awesome mask. It's a fantastic purchase, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kohl's is selling a ton of these as a result. Basically, it has audio with it. It's a little like Hulk hands, but a mask. But the jaw moves, like it straps onto you, so it looks like your jaw is moving just like it's Chewbacca's. So that's pretty awesome. But I think that Candace is just so personable, and I think that her enthusiasm is just so fantastic that it's really wonderful. I mean, we just saw a story the other day about Shane Black saying that he wanted a female villain for Iron Man 3, but Marvel and Disney felt that no one would buy the toys for that. So it's great to show and to have it trending on Twitter, a female fan making a purchase and really being into the universe. And I'd be curious to know how Ray toy sales did off of Star Wars The Force Awakens. But women don't just buy women-oriented merchandise either. I mean, she bought a Chewbacca mask, and Chewbacca is a dude, as we all know from his flirting in The Force Awakens. So I just thought that was wonderful. There's, of course, a link down below in the video description so that you can see this video. It's just so incredibly charming, and I'm glad that Candace posted it, and I'm glad that we're seeing more and more diversity in the fandom, and showing that these movies make so much money because so many people like them. You can't have that size of an audience. You can't make like $2 billion at the box office if a lot of different people don't like your product. So it's great. It's a great Friday news piece. I can see why everybody was paying attention to it, but I like it for the additional aspects as well. All right, so that's the first story of the day. Thank you, movie gods. All right, now let's move over to someone who has a horrible attitude about this type of stuff, and that's Jennifer Lawrence. Just when you think you've forgiven Jennifer Lawrence, and you're like, yeah, you didn't ruin X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, you didn't make it better, but you didn't ruin it. So okay, I'm feeling a little bit better about you. But then, sure enough, she goes and says a horrible comment that just I think makes her look bad all over again. I'm just really shocked, and I think it would really benefit Fox to just jettison her at this point, especially after this comment. And I was really sad also that Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy got looped into this. And they weren't dumb enough to say it publicly. So, all right, so what did Jennifer Lawrence say? So Jennifer Lawrence was giving an interview, and they're like, oh, are you going to come back? You're going to make more of these movies? And she said, the quote was, Fox should be terrified. And the reason she thinks Fox should be terrified is that she and Fassbender and McAvoy apparently have an informal agreement that if one of them doesn't come back, none of them will come back for more X-Men movies. Hey, you know what? If you don't want to be in an X-Men movie, don't be in an X-Men movie. I mean, there's so many X-Men that they could focus on, whatever. I mean, I think Magneto's kind of just going in circles at this point, quite frankly, and I don't like Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, but I would genuinely be sad to see James McAvoy go. And if I worked at Fox, I would take him aside and go, I appreciate your friendship with your fellow actors, but, what else are you doing, man? Don't take a dive for them. Yeah, I'll give you a very nice paycheck, and let's break up this pact. Because you've made a pact with two people who are not crucial to this going forward. And I guess maybe to some degree they feel they realize that. I don't know. I don't know why Jennifer Lawrence would make a pact with two other actors when she said that she's not even that eager to return unless it was for a big paycheck. It's just an odd thing to say. I would also advise Jennifer Lawrence to stop doing her negotiations in public because it's not working for her. Her complaint about salary really blew up in her face. Her complaining about, American hustle and the pay negotiations for passengers. I think that it's not great that everybody knows how much she got paid for that movie, because I think it's going to make people really pay attention to that performance and whether or not it's worth $20 million up front and a sizable percentage of the gross in back end participation. And I just think, it's like, why are you making these movies, right? I mean, are you making them because you like them and you like giving something nice to the fans? Or, you're clearly just doing it for a paycheck. And I think that's really crummy. I think that I don't know who her publicist is, but her publicist would benefit, and I think they would both benefit from their publicist saying, you know what, maybe you just talk about the craft, Jennifer. Maybe just talk about liking the movies. I think it's just really crummy, and it's just such a mercenary approach. First Daniel Craig yesterday with his whole, I don't want to return to be James Bond. The New York Times ran a big article about how comic book movies are ruining the movie star because people care more about the mythology of these franchises than they do a particular actor. And I think, if actors are going to start taking on this attitude, maybe that's a good thing, because then the franchises aren't reliant on an actor, and if an actor wants to pull garbage like this, you can just say bye-bye. It's really unfortunate. And it actually makes you feel very nice for the people over at Marvel who always say nice things about being in the movies. And I haven't seen anyone at DC complain yet either. So, Margot Robbie's like, I want to be Harley Quinn forever. I mean, that's what you want. So I'm just appalled by that. And I think it's really, really bad. I mean, I think if we didn't want Jennifer Lawrence back before, I don't think we want her back for sure now. And look, also when she got in trouble backstage at the Golden Globes, yelling at a reporter, it's kind of like getting to the point where, like, who do you think you are? Nobody's on top forever. Everything's cyclical, right? I mean, just because you maybe have a dip doesn't mean you can't come back, of course. But she would do well to remember that, being an actor, a successful actor, is a symbiotic relationship with your fans, and you cannot command these salaries and all this press if people don't want to see you. That's the relationship. So I just don't know how. I mean, she just continues to push her luck. All right, so that's the second story of the day, and I'd be very curious to know how you feel about that. Please don't let her comments ruin X-Men Apocalypse for you. It is a fantastic movie. All right, and she's not in it too much, actually. I mean, she's in it a little bit, but she's not what makes it fantastic. So go enjoy it, and I just hope James McAvoy comes to his senses. All right, so the third story of the day, speaking of cinematic universes, Universal is like, man, we have no comic books over here. None! So we're going to have to be creative when it comes to building cinematic universes. So they're already building their Monsters cinematic universe, which I think sounds pretty awesome. We've talked a lot about that with Tom Cruise and Johnny Depp and Russell Crowe. It just sounds great. I think that's going to potentially be really strong. But now they're building a new one around the Robert Ludlum novels, which includes Jason Bourne. And they're bringing Dwayne Johnson in to cover another thread of books that Robert Ludlum has written to play the other character that he created. He created Jason Bourne, Paul Jansen, who Dwayne Johnson is going to play, and then he has something called Covert One, which is a group of operatives, which is a top secret U.S. agency which deals with like world threats, right? So I don't know if Jason Bourne and Paul Jansen will join Covert One. We'll see, or if that'll be a whole nother set. But Covert One, if they're not careful, sounds a little bit like Legends of Tomorrow, right? Legends of Tomorrow is currently imploding, although they got rid of Hawkgirl, which is like one of the best things they could have done for that show. She's like one of the main reasons I stopped watching. Wentworth Miller also left, though, which is not great because he was my favorite thing on the show. But I don't know. I don't know if they're cleaning house or people are jumping ship, but we'll see what happens over there. But back to this cinematic universe they're creating for Robert Ludlum. They didn't say if Jason Bourne would be a part of it. Matt Damon, obviously, huge talent. That's his franchise. He really is the powerhouse behind it. And I don't think anyone can make him do anything he doesn't want to do. But Dwayne Johnson's a really hot talent right now. And so I don't know if it would be a bad idea for them to team up in a movie. I think it could be pretty darn cool. But, they have to be careful. Like, what's the tone? How do you make this seem like a cinematic universe, right? I guess just the idea of Dwayne Johnson and Matt Damon in a movie together as these characters would be pretty cool. But we'll see how it continues. So what's the Paul Jansen story? Well, they're doing the Jansen directive first, where Dwayne Johnson will play a former operative turned the best private security consultant in the world. But he's framed for murder and has to join forces with his own protege who was sent to kill him, but of course believes that Jansen was set up. So that sounds pretty good. I like Dwayne Johnson quite a bit. I'm very excited for Central Intelligence. I think he's a lot of fun, and I think he can do some really good action sequences too. I'll be curious to see if Dwayne Johnson does Jason Bourne style fighting. And we haven't seen that from Dwayne Johnson, and that could potentially be very, very strong. So I'm into this. I'm not quite sure. I can't visualize a Robert Ludlum cinematic universe at the moment, but I'm not against the idea. And I think that as TV becomes more competitive and movies become more expensive and the release schedule gets more crowded, I think that cinematic universes really are the future of the movie business, and they're going to have to just find a way to differentiate them and find diversity within that formula. So this is very interesting to see Universal experimenting there, and I'm curious to see if they can pull it off. One of my favorite things in Furious 7 was the fight between Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham. That was amazing! And showing it in the trailer did a lot to sell that movie. So if they could use that, Matt Damon's Jason Bourne versus Dwayne Johnson's Paul Jansen, I could be pretty into that. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day. Now, the viewer question comes from Mark the Card Fighter. He asked this over in my video yesterday about upcoming Disney live-action movies. So he says, "Hi, Grace. How you doing?" Smiley faces. "I hope you can answer my question, possibly on Morning Movie News as well." Wish granted. Thank you, Mark, for your great question. He says, "Is there still a huge interest for Peter Pan?" Because I said that's one of the movies that Disney is working on. They have a director assigned to it and everything, the director for Pete's Dragon. So Mark says, "I know we have Disney's animated movie, the Broadway play with Mary Martin, Hook, the 2003 live-action reboot, the live television play a couple of years ago, with Christopher Walken, and most recently, Pan. Do you think that the new movie will do well because it's Disney, or it's Peter Pan, or is it because Peter Pan is still an attention grabber? Hope you answer this for me. Your big fan from La Puente, California," and then tons of cute emojis. Thank you, Mark. Also, they have the Finding Neverland story, which is now also currently on Broadway, and they also did Peter Pan and the Starcatcher on Broadway a couple of years before that. So Peter Pan, he is a character that just won't go away. I think because he's such a strong has such a strong relationship with audiences, right? Peter Pan just really is something truly magical. Now, I think that what's going to make this do well is that it's Disney. And as I said in my video, if they can get Jacob Tremblay to get a little bit older and play Peter Pan, that thing will just take off like it'll be like it's sprinkled in pixie dust as it rises up the box office charts. I think that Disney is doing really well with their live-action fairy tales. I think they're really in the zone. I think that Cinderella, while I had some problems with it story-wise, was just so sumptuous and just such a fantasy. As I like to say, just barfing up fantasy everywhere. You're like, it's just so much. I can't take it. It's fantastic. I think they really know what people want, and they're not ashamed to give it to them. Sometimes you'll see some filmmakers be like, "I'm going to try and do the more sophisticated version of a fairy tale." Disney's like, "We know nobody wants that. Glitter, pink, blue, fluffiness." And you're just like, "Oh, I love it so much." And I think that with Peter Pan, people I want super London. I want, beautiful colors. I want, the gorgeous music, the night sky. I want pixie dust everywhere. You just can't throw enough pixie dust on me. And I think Disney will deliver that. I think Pan, look at the color scheme for Pan. Look at the tone. Very bleak. They change the story up and you're like, why am I watching this story? I just think Disney is not ashamed to give people exactly what they want and to just, really play into nostalgia quite strongly. And they can because they set the tone for what everybody, as I said in my video, they're the ones who really, I think, made people love Peter Pan, Disney. It's not J.M. Barrie's original story, which, obviously is very charming. And of course, Mary Martin's, Broadway play and live telecast way back in the day, made an impression with people. But it was Disney that really put Peter Pan on the map. And so, everybody else has to worry about looking like they're ripping Disney off, whereas Disney can just say, we know what you want. Allow us to give it to you. So I think Peter Pan is important, but Disney is the key factor there, Mark. Thank you so much for your question. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and that viewer question. Who do you think it is, Peter Pan or Disney? Anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.